Let's get into the headlines now and see what the papers are saying this morning. Really interesting headlines, but the touching one from the collapsed building yesterday. But I have with me a lawyer, public affairs analyst, Jide Ologun, with me in the studio, as well as Dr. Danekere of the University of Lagos. Good morning, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good morning.
It's really nice to have you join me. All right, let's begin with the Guardian newspaper this morning. 8 killed, 37 rescued in Lagos building collapse. Rights body demands audit, a prosecution of government officials, and Buhari Ambode others condole with victims' families. That's on the Guardian. We move to the Punch newspaper. That's the next one. Buhari Ambode mourn as collapse building, Lagos building kills pupils and others. I thought it was a bomb explosion, says victim's father. It's really a sad one. Now, from the Punch, let's move to the Vanguard. The Vanguard is saying rowdy session in Senate over elections. And as multiple riders, they say senators differ on plans to probe militarization of polls as House moves to probe inconclusive elections by INEC and says development portends danger to democracy. From the Vanguard, let's go to This Day. This Day is saying President revokes OML 11 license, transfers operatorship to NNPC. That's what This Day is saying. From This Day, let's move to the last one now, Daily Sun. Daily Sun is saying Lagos, sad day, 12 school kids killed in building collapse, leaving residents in sorrow and tears. And Ambode orders probe building Harvard school, shops, others. And President Buhari mourns. All right, that's the Daily Sun. Okay, let's move, gentlemen. One of the stories that will interest us, interest you, is on the Sun. Page 6 is saying, page 6 of the Sun is saying federal government bans Boeing 737 MAX airplanes and aircraft won't be allowed into Nigeria's airspace. That's by the Minister of State for Aviation, Adi Sirika, representing the federal government, issuing that ban. We also see a reaction from the United States as well. Dr. Ekere, I'd like to start with you on this.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's quite interesting that we have decided to take that move. I think it's part of aviation regulation when a particular, aircraft is having issues, accidents, in such a quick succession. There's a need to look at it. I think that's what has happened, but it's good we've done that. But my worry really is that, what about those, vehicles that are not roadworthy and the rest? Have we banned any of them? Is it because, the rich who will always, it's only when it affects them that they take quick action.
But would you liken the aviation sector with the local transport sector?
Is it not a transport something?
It's transportation.
So what is the difference? Yeah. It's about lives. It's about human lives. We see how look at the vehicles on the road. Look, the rate of accident on the road. Yeah, except that when it happens, when there is air mishap, the level of fatality is always high. And more especially, you begin to hear of some names that, sometimes ring bell and not the rest. But when it happens on the road, most of the time it's the commoner. So they take, they're always very swift in dealing with the one that has to do with the air. But I'm thinking that this should be, a comprehensive something. That if you are concerned about human lives, if you are concerned about safety, it shouldn't be about aviation alone.
Then let's do a comprehensive review. Yes. Do you share that that notion as well? Not necessarily about the aviation industry only, but about transportation in Nigeria generally and all of that.
Absolutely. Firstly, I must appreciate the federal government for taking that step in a proactive manner. And of course, like he said, if we have this approach to other sectors of our national life, it should be fantastic. Safety is critical, and transportation is basically by air, by water, and by road. And because perhaps this affects the high and mighty, that action is promptly taken. We saw a swift response like this when Ebola visited Nigeria. And Ebola does not know whether you are honorable or not honorable. So you saw the government combating it headlong. And I think if we now shift this towards our economy, anything that is likely to keep us in poverty, we deal with it decisively, revive our education. And it takes me to the point I always make. Where there is a will. Where there is an interest, there is a way.
There will always be a way. Okay. Another story is on the Vanguard newspaper on page 5 that talks about a rowdy session in the Senate. Rowdy session in Senate over elections. Now, there is the move to probe or investigate the militarization of the election process, and it led to a lot of generation of rowdiness in this session, especially when Senator Dino Melaye wanted the Senate to look into and probe actually what happened, and was talking about bringing evidence. But some senators didn't believe in that, Dr. Kere.
Yeah, you know, a beneficiary of crime will obviously not condemn crime. You know,
are you saying that
some of them were beneficiaries of that particular, you know, scenario? The truth is that if somebody is making, let's assume an allegation that the military were involved in, you know, some kind of, you know, malpractice in the election, and he's saying that let's prove. He didn't say let's go arrest Britai or anybody. Let's prove. It means let's find out what happened. What is wrong with trying to find out what happened? I expected that they should have been on the same page to say, okay, let's look into this. Because I remember, you know, in 2015, there was actually a court pronouncement on the involvement of military with respect to elections. So if there are such allegations that military were involved, and they are even talking about video evidences, it should have interested every senator. Because the idea is, you need to deal with issues that affect the people. And this is one of them. Election is critical. The only thing that the people get involved in is at that point of, the voting.
The voting.
At the end of the day, it is the politicians who decide.
Especially when we're talking about building the system and building institutions like INEC and all of that. Do you think this is just politics playing out, or maybe even negative politics playing out?
You know, yeah, it's politics. Like Doctor said, some are beneficiaries, some are victims. But by and large, if this development is not dealt with, democracy is threatened. There is no part of trying to define democracy that brings in the concept of militarizing the process. We have an excuse for that, the insecurity in the country, which also is a symptom of governance failure. You see, so, and I said it, those who are tempted to use the military while managing the country towards 2015, in 2014, are some of those crying foul now. And in industrial psychology, that is reinforcement theory. Those who are now using it are doing so at a higher level and a stronger level. And democracy is threatened. So I want us as a country to sit back and ask ourselves, do we want a twisted version of democracy, militarized democracy? Because whether we deny it or not, the most recent election in Nigeria was marred with intimidation, with different kinds of forces. That should not be. People should be able to freely express their will, because sovereignty belongs to the people.
Belongs to the
so
people.
If you are benefiting today, you may be a victim tomorrow. So if we want democracy, let's have democracy. If we don't want democracy, it's a different ballgame. And the moment you introduce virus onto your system, you know what the effect will be. So I am against this. And on probing it, I will ask the question, how many probes have we driven to conclusion in Nigeria? So I think they should be concerned about making laws and implementing laws that will make it difficult for any group to subvert the process of
all right.
pure
When it comes to probing what happened and how it happened, Dr. Kerry, do you think this even originally lies with INEC itself that conducted the election?
No, it's not about INEC alone. Okay. INEC has its own responsibilities or role to play. I'm sure INEC knows what to do with respect to those issues. But I think what the Senate was trying to do, okay, let's look at what transpired. And I am of the opinion that it would have equally helped, it could have aided, more robust legislation. Because at the moment, when you look at even this so-called margin of lead principle, I see it as a very dubious, something. Because
by INEC?
Yes, that is what it is. And the issue of look at the rate of cancellation. It is far higher than what happened in the last election. So when you look at it from that angle, that okay, I now know that my opponent has, more supporters in a particular area. All I need to do is, create violence, and at the end, you cancel the votes of that place so that the ones in my area will count. Now, but I don't know that when
But
you cancel...
isn't that the reason why INEC is saying we can't outrightly just announce the result? Let us do some rejigging of the figures, so that if
in the first instance, who cancels the election? Is it not INEC? The people don't cancel elections. So what makes you cancel election? What do you call cancel? When you cancel, if you take exam and you cancel a particular, write-up on a page, are you expecting the examiner to see grade that script?
It's gone, it's gone.
So what are we saying? If you've cancelled votes, you've destroyed them. Okay. Why revive it?
So they shouldn't be part of it anymore.
At all.
So we can make do with whatever is left.
Beautiful. You must make, enough ground to protect votes.
Okay.
If you are saying that maybe such things will not happen, then you will continue to, organize the election wherever there is any violence that prevents election.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to leave you here now. Dr. Danekere, thank you so much for coming. Jide Olokun, thank you very much for coming as well.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Right.